Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Time for the playoffs now. Time for the playoffs now. It's Super Wild Card Weekend. Ha! Are you guys ready?
Look at me.
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing?
I'm bobbling around. I'm so excited.
Not on rhythm. I'm a little confused.
Judd
not
has
in
never
rhythm.
been accused of having great rhythm.
Do you know me? Not in rhythm?
What's your go-to dance move at a wedding? When like Dawn says, Judd, I need you on the dance floor for two songs. That's it. Are you like a thumbs out? Are you a shoulders dancer?
I'm sort of a roll.
What's your thing?
I'm sort of Mr. Roboto dancer. Like I've got like a shuffle of like 4. No, I don't do that part, but like my legs, like I try and move in a box. So like I'm over, up, over, back, over. So like I'm
be unpredictable. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I'm very much like a PK in hockey. I play a box formation of dancing, and that's what I do. But yes, I am the most. It's funny because my dad loved to dance. My dad had rhythm. It was phenomenal.
Oh.
I have zero. Like it's not even debatable.
Judd is Elaine from Seinfeld out there just spazzing.
Take some, Judd. Take some lessons.
No,
ain't gonna work.
You need the Alexander Hitchens. You stay at home, right here. This is you, and nothing else. You stay at home.
Me. That's me after a couple drinks, probably.
Okay.
But the more drinks, the worse it gets.
I see. So after only a couple drinks,
I probably am.
But after like
a conservative
8 drinks,
dancer. But after 8 drinks, it's all over. And you better watch out because I will bowl you over on the dance floor.
He's just shoulder checking people. All right, it's Feedback Friday here on Mackie and Joe, where we just take a batch of your questions and concerns and critiques, whatever you want to send to us via the SKOR North app. We always check out the SKOR North YouTube channel, Purple Daily YouTube channel as well. Let's start with this one here. Yi Vang chimes in. I live behind enemy lines in Madison, Wisconsin. Love watching and listening to SKOR North and Purple Daily. Watching you and Alex Boone fill breakdown tapes is awesome. Thank you for that compliment. I have a question. Can you see Ed Donatel using Josh Mettelus more and use a 3 safety, 1 linebacker look so the defense can have more speed to cover Daniel Jones?
Wow.
Okay.
I mean, Metellus does have the captain's C now. It's just a thought I had while listening to KOC talk about Metellus being a captain. Love you guys. Skol Vike. Let's win one before we die. Let me just expand this question to be, what would you do if you were Ed Donatel? Would you shuffle pieces here?
Okay, so this is, I think I suggested this in preseason. I thought it would be a potential. Lewis Seen might get used, and I believe I called it the big dime because you would have the extra corner in Shannon Sullivan, and then you'd bring Seen in at the time, and Kendricks would be the linebacker and the only one on the field for the Vikings. We might have seen this like once or twice. I don't feel that we saw this much, so no, I don't think they're going to do that. I think the key piece is Asamoah playing. Coming back from his knee, he didn't play against the Bears. He practiced yesterday. Brian Asamoah, because if you look at his body type, he looks like a safety. He does not look like a at all traditional linebacker. So, and he played again a season high 27 snaps in the game against the Giants, forced a fumble, recovered it, certainly proved his worth in that game. So to answer the question, no, I don't think that they actually employ what I thought they might for a while, which is a third safety. I do think if Asamoah can play, he will play.
I think they are going to ride or die largely with the veterans on this defense. I think it's going to be, you're going to see some Brian Asamoah because he did play a season high. You brought this up yesterday, 27 snaps against the Giants. Didn't he force that fumble too?
Yep.
And recovered it. Now he also got torched a little on that play in coverage. He took a wrong step.
But he could keep up with the guy.
It was a huge gain, but he tracked him down, made a play, right?
Yep.
He's not great in coverage, but he is the fastest linebacker that they have, and Daniel Jones is very mobile. Daniel Jones, too, we played a couple clips on that Trenches episode with Booney where there was one that was just a straight-up designed read option where he faked the handoff and he ran it just like Colin Kaepernick back in the day.
Yep.
And he ran it for like 25 yards. But then there was another one, I think it was against the Colts, and the Colts designed a blitz, there was just a free running linebacker coming untouched. Half the quarterbacks in the league, including Kirk, are just screwed, right? Just, oh, you're sacked. Daniel Jones just sprints out to the left and gains 15 or 20 yards. So who is going to keep an eye on him? And even if it's Kendricks or Hicks, I don't know that those guys have the speed anymore to do it. So I worry that they're going to be stubborn and say, well, these are the veterans that got us here, and these are the veterans we're going to trust and believe in. Even Harrison Smith, like, he's been kind of banged up. He's 33 years old or whatever he is now, but you got to ride with Harrison. I would look to get Asamoah and Mettelus some snaps creatively to just put some more speed on the field. But how they do that, we'll see.
If your run defense doesn't have a good day, you're screwed. Because Barkley, I think I said had 22 touches in the game against the Vikings, but I believe he only carried 14 times. I think that's going to go up. The read option with Jones is a problem. The key to me is this. What do you do at linebacker to contain that? And here's the second part. Is it going to be Tonga time? Because if it's not Tonga time, if they gash you, it's over.
Tonga plays quite a few snaps.
He does now. I believe he starts now. He's the starter now in the interior of that 3-4. So you are going to absolutely have to come up with a plan that works. The one thing I want to see from Ed in what could be his last game here, Godspeed if it is, the one thing I want to see is if this defense is going to go down being aggressive. Go down with a plan. If I see that man running a defense that is basically prioritizes, well, this works, I know it works, I will personally go down to the sideline and fire him myself. And I hope Kevin O'Connell wouldn't allow that. Fired. I hope O'Connell wouldn't allow that. But honest to God, if we don't see them have a creative, aggressive plan, this passive crap doesn't work.
Agreed.
What are you worried about?
You're giving up tons of points and yards by being passive. I would rather see them get aggressive, get burned a couple times, maybe give up a couple touchdowns, but then force an extra turnover that they wouldn't have otherwise forced. Or force, a big sack on a second or third down that changes a drive, right?
Yes.
Fonny chimes in here via the SKOR North app. How is this defense this bad with Zadarius Smith, Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, Eric Kendricks, Pat P., Duke of Shelley, Harrison Smith?
This is your question.
I am just as confused and lost as many other Vikings fans. Can you guys do a PFF grade evaluation of the defense for the entire season? So here's the thing. I do have PFF open, but I believe they grade the players based on what they're being asked to do, right? So if you're being asked to play off coverage and the off, let's say you're Patrick Peterson or you're Duke of Shelley and you're playing 5 to 8 yards off a receiver,
right? And
that receiver catches a pass for 9 yards and you make a tackle, you did your job. That guy, it was a boom. It was a quick hitting pass. You tackled him without any yards after the catch. You're going to get a pretty good grade on that play because you did your job. But the scheme, you playing off the ball by 5 yards or 8 yards, what you were being asked to do, led to a completion of 8 or 9 yards, right? That's how, I'm just an idiot with a microphone. I don't know what the inner workings are of PFF necessarily, but I think that's what's happening. So they actually they grade on a 1 to 100 scale, but 90 is like elite players. Think Aaron Donald would be like a 90. An average player would be like a 60. Like a 60 to 65 would be like a league average player, your total grade. Here are the Vikings defenders with a grade of at least 68 or better. So like considered to be above average defensive players. I'm probably overgeneralizing, but that's it. Danielle Hunter, 86. Josh Mettelus played 260 snaps, 85. Zadarius, 82. Duke Shelley, 81. Patrick Peterson, 81. Brian Asamoah, 79. Tonga, 78. Dalvin Tomlinson, 77. Harrison Phillips, 72. Harrison Smith, 70. It's
10 players.
That's ridiculous. And that's the second worst defense in the league. Now they do have a couple guys, for instance, Chandon Sullivan's been really bad. DJ Wanham's had a bad season. Jonathan Bullard's been bad. Cam Bynum's been pretty bad. Eric Kendricks has not been what he usually is. Patrick Jones. So there's a few guys that haven't really been great, but this screams like a scheme issue more than a player issue to me anyways.
Yeah, I think it definitely is. I mean, again, I will go back to, I would challenge you to find a season that's comparable in the Vikings time of PFF grades to Danielle Hunter's season, which is he's graded out consistently really well. And there have been periods of time where I don't notice him. Now,
he's doing his job. Yeah.
At first, I think that's a Danielle Hunter problem. But when you see that grade, something's saying, no, it's really not. It's a schematic problem. And look, I understand that Donatel was brought here to run a scheme. Okay. So like the starting point was O'Connell liked what Fangio did, knew that Donatel was now a disciple of Fangio and said, install that scheme because it's hard to play against. But at some point in time, the fact that Kevin O'Connell, and this is where I think Donatel's gone, the fact that Kevin O'Connell, after that second Detroit game, the loss against the Lions at Ford Field, had to go to Ed Donatel and say, here's how I would scheme against you, be less predictable.
Guy.
But I mean, that's okay. The NFL is all about keeping things unpredictable. That's the whole course of this league. So yes, I think that Phil, you asked the question on Monday or Tuesday and said, how is a defense that seemingly has some really good components, like several good components, this bad? And yes, I think that it has been, I don't think Ed Donatel, other than when he's forced to, has ever maximized the players on this defense.
Yeah. It's kind of bizarre. Danielle Hunter, by the way, is third on the team in stop tackles. So a stop tackle is defined as if you make a tackle that is a failure for the offense. So a successful play for the offense is if you get at least, I think it's 40% of the necessary yards on first down, 60% of the necessary yards on second down, or a conversion on third down. And conversely, if you're a defense and you tackle a player before they hit one of those marks, it would be a successful play for the defense. And Danielle Hunter, in addition to being top 5 or 6 in the NFL in pressures, was also excellent at just stopping. If it's a handoff through his general area, he's great at that too. Here's a funny thing. I don't really know what to make of this because the Vikings aren't the only team that will drop edge rushers into coverage once in a while, and it doesn't happen that often.
Right.
But Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith combined to drop into coverage 64 times this year. So a few times a game, one of those guys is dropping into coverage, or both of them. When quarterbacks threw at them, which was only 10 times, they were 10 for 10 for like 70 yards after the catch.
Yep.
It's not, that doesn't work. I just would say, I get it. Once in a while, to be tricky, you're going to drop a guy into coverage or something, but like Danielle Hunter shouldn't be dropping into coverage.
Well, and Zadarius Smith has had a bad knee for how long now? Like you can draw a line on effective Zalarius, ineffective. And it's that. And he says he's fine, or I think he said that he heard it in Buffalo and that now it's fine. We'll see. If it's fine, that should be a huge threat against the Giants.
And what's funny is Danielle has an 84.5 out of 100 coverage grade. So they're saying when he's asked to drop into coverage, which is 31 times, they've only targeted him 7. So there's like 24 other plays in which he's doing a good enough job that they don't throw at him. But so schematically, he's doing what he's supposed to do largely when he's in coverage. But I would argue, are those 31 coverage snaps better spent elsewhere, doing things like pass rushing?
And the 31 and those 31 coverage snaps are only sort of a symptom of the problem. Like the problem goes so far beyond that because it's the full-time use of guys. It's why I am, once the season is complete, Phil, very excited to hear your list of 7 candidates to replace Ed Donatel.
It's burning a hole in my pocket.
I know,
right
and
now,
it's
too.
killing you not to reveal
my
it,
God.
which is my favorite thing. I got a text from Mackie, I think it was last Sunday, saying, I've come up with a list of 7 potential replacements for Ed, and I've been mashing draft film all weekend.
I said,
it's like
I don't think we can unleash the 7 candidates respectfully until the season's over, right? So
Correct.
Didn't you say that you spent like all Saturday like with a glass of wine and draft film?
My Saturday last weekend, large chunks of it was it was me putting together 7 potential Ed Donatel replacements, and it was mostly studying like the 5 position groups the Vikings could look to target in the first round of the draft.
You and
they only have 4 draft picks, and I have for you guys whenever the time is right. Hopefully it's not for another month. We'll see.
Yep.
I have for you a handful of wide receivers, not just good wide receivers. There's a few of them, but downfield, deep threat wide receivers that the Vikings could target in this year's draft. I have a list ready to rock and roll, researched everything. Yeah. And whenever the time is right, we will do a weekly, and I won't unveil too many details yet, but we will do a weekly like draft speculation show that we think you guys are going to really enjoy.
We're going to bring something to the table is what you're saying.
So hopefully the Vikings play for another month, but if and when they bow out, we've got you covered right away on Purple Daily.
The draft,
the next day. Mm-hmm.
Love it.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. In fact, this next question here on Feedback Friday is presented by our friends at Underdog Fantasy Decks. This is a great weekend if you haven't dabbled to jump into Underdog for the first time.
Yeah, you got NFL playoffs that are going on. My guy Alex sent me this 5 pick'em slip, Judd, from an NHL parlay that he hit. So he had a 5 pick'em slip for $600, taking hires and lowers. Took some hires on Kevin Fiala's shots, on over-under on McDavid goals.
Phoenix Copley.
Yeah, a Phoenix Copley play, for God's sake.
God, I love this guy already. It's like a
lower on Martin Jones. He even took the higher on Cam Talbot, because why wouldn't you? You can do this at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code SKOR, SKOR. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. If you want to get in on some super wild card weekend, some NHL picks, PGA Tours heating up a little bit. Old Dex Tweets was able to cash in some slips last weekend on that one. Go check out Underdog Fantasy, the best and easiest way to play fantasy sports.
Okay, Tim Mulgren asks this question. Now that it's been almost a year since Mike Zimmer was fired, what's one question you would ask Mike if you knew he had to answer it honestly?
Ooh, I love this. I absolutely love this question. I would. Oh boy, there's a few here actually. There's a few questions here.
I'd want to go back 5 years. I'd want to know
about Kirk.
Yep. What was that? What was that, dude? Like you just didn't embrace. I want to know more about why he and Kirk couldn't find a way to coexist. I want to know more about that. What was
I would try to ask Mike in a more diplomatic way. At what point in time did you begin to hate this team?
Yeah.
Because it clearly was around the time of Kirk. So that played a role. But I mean, he went through 2017 sort of being the crusty old gritty coach, but the players seem to a certain point for sure gravitate towards it. But on your way out the door, when Eric Kendricks, who's, don't get me wrong, he's done a lot of good, but when it comes to football, he says almost nothing. When Eric Kendricks basically calls it a culture of fear or fear-based culture, he clearly hated you by the end. And I think Mike reciprocated that. So I would be very curious to know, like, where did it cross the line from these are my guys, I'm tough on them, but it works, to I basically can't stand this team.
Yeah, it's interesting. What would you ask him, Dex?
There's a lot I'd like to ask him, but I would say I actually would love to know more about the infamous game where he had to miss because of his eye surgery, and Prefer had to coach. I believe that was a Thursday night football game against the Dallas Cowboys in the inaugural year at US Bank, which, by the way, the Vikings got hosed on a last second call in the red zone, I believe. I would want to know what was that day like, having to basically not watch the game? I think he said he literally couldn't watch it. Like, he had to listen to the radio call because he was so obviously power hungry that he wanted to watch it, but he couldn't. I want to know like his emotions on that more.
Didn't they drive him down to Jacksonville or something for the next game? They like drove him.
They drove him
because he couldn't fly, right?
And I think the day of the surgery, or around the time of that Cowboys game, which I think in the morning he had the procedure done, or on Wednesday, I believe because of that retina surgery, he had to be face down. So he couldn't watch the game, because I think you have to lie face down, and your face is in like some type of holder so that you can breathe. And yeah, he had to listen to the call. But and the day that Teddy got hurt, I'd love to go back now on that day. That would be a great oral history type of story now, about like that whole day, what transpired, who did what.
Yeah.
And like, how much did that just change things ultimately in such a huge way from what the vision had been, right?
And if Teddy had not blown out his knee, I mean, he's a different player because of it, right?
Oh yeah.
You know, what would he have been more than just kind of a backup? He's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league, right? But he's not going to be a long-term starter. What would he have been without that injury?
It's a miracle he came back at all. So yeah, you're right about that.
Let's see here. Alan has a prediction. I think this has to be off the record, Alan, because we only take on the record predictions during Write That Down. But this is an interesting one.
Okay.
He says the 2023 starting quarterback for the Detroit Lions will be Tom Brady. Going back to the state of Michigan.
No.
Play for Dan Campbell.
The Raiders make a lot of sense.
Jared Goff in 2023, probably better than Tom Brady. Like a 46-year-old Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Or Jared Goff coming off like the second best year of his career. That sounds crazy to say that, but
unless Brady privately hates McDaniels, Vegas makes a ton of sense for Tom Brady.
It does. Those two guys seem to work well together.
Do you revisit the whole Miami thing? I mean, if Tua's going to not be able to play quarterback.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure the league would allow that now. Because they got a first round draft pick taken away. Yeah, I don't know that the league. I think the league might have said, "Don't even talk to him again."
Yeah, it's interesting. And then Matt Hansen says, with the playoffs about to start, I was wondering what team other than the Vikings you would like to see win the Super Bowl, and what team would you despise seeing win? So outside of the Vikings.
I think I'd like to see the Bengals win it. Burrow is just so much fun. I'd like to see the Bengals win it. As far as despise,
Eagles.
Cowboys.
Those fans are so despicable. The Cowboys haven't won anything in like 30 years, though.
But I don't like the Cowboys. They just do nothing for me. I don't like them. They get so much attention, and it's not deserved, really. Like, they get attention because they're in Dallas.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay, the Buffalo Bills. If it can't be the Vikings, I would say the Buffalo Bills finally getting there first. Stephon Diggs getting a title.
Yep.
The stuff that happened on Monday night a couple weeks ago.
That's a good one.
I would probably say the Bills.
Yeah, I like the Bengals a lot. I think the Bengals will be fun to see. The Bucs, it would bore me. Like, if Brady does it again, like, it does nothing for me. I'm sick of Brady.
With this team, though, that would be insane.
Yeah, he'd be dragging a dead horse across the finish line, dude.
You know, if he would win, people might start to consider him the greatest quarterback of all time if he could drag this team to a championship. Would this be like his seventh? Yeah. Eighth, right? He had 6 in New England, the 1 in Tampa. This would be his 8th championship. It's ridiculous. Oh, man. So, and the Lions. That's my answer. If the Lions could somehow sneak their way back into the playoffs.
Your love for the Lions is
the 8th best team in the NFL that you guys disrespect.
Disrespect. I dismiss